I stand here, casting no illusions, offering no platitudes, only raw truth. Your apology, Judge Thomas, I cannot accept it. Hear me say it again, because I intend every syllable to slice through the noise of perfunctory regret. I cannot accept it. And here is why. Watch closely, till the end. You issued your apology with polished words, carefully measured, deliberately gentle. Each syllable coded in the kind of calm that only comes from a man untouched by the consequences of his own mistakes. You said, "I'm sorry," as though remorse was something ornamental, something to be worn like a suit before cameras, or folded into court transcripts to check a box. That apology, soft, rehearsed, sterile, was nothing more than a whisper, a fleeting breath of regret trying to cover a storm of harm. You offered it like a thin sheet meant to smother a fire that has already consumed too much. You said, "I'm sorry," like it had the power to reverse time, to unmake the chains you forged with your judgment. But your words do not rewind what happened. They do not unwrite the paperwork filed in cold ink, bearing my name like a threat. They do not unring the bell that was sounded when my dignity was dragged into a courtroom and treated like an inconvenience. Your whisper cannot erase the arrest warrant you allowed to be stamped, not based on truth, not based on evidence, but on assumption and proximity to power. It cannot lift the weight of the fine you handed down without pause, strapped to my back like a punishment. You didn't even take the time to understand that gavel, Judge Thomas. When it fell, it didn't fall with righteousness. It didn't fall with caution. It fell with cold indifference, mechanical, detached, as if my life, my future, my name were just another formality to process before your lunch break. You didn't look me in the eye. You didn't consider what your decision would do to a man's soul, to a family's peace, to a community already weary of a system that never seems to side with us. You didn't see me. You saw a case file, a name, a problem to be moved along. You let your power work like a machine that can't feel the skin it grinds. So don't come to me now, weeks, months later, with your neat apology. Don't come to me now with the ease of hindsight and expect me to be grateful for your guilt. That apology, Judge, doesn't lighten the load. It doesn't make what you did disappear. It's just a sound, a soft noise trying to drown out the screaming truth, that you got it wrong, that you hurt someone, that you let the hammer fall not because it was just, but because it was easy. And I will not let you wrap that ease in politeness. I will not let your apology become your escape route. What you're offering is not amends. It is no balm. It's a bandage slapped on a wound you, Judge Thomas, made. You think a simple "I'm sorry" absolves you. That your apology, brushed off like a legal technicality, is enough to wipe the slate clean. But you listen to me. It has not erased the deep-seated fear, the humiliation, the fracture of trust that your misstep created. You weighed my humanity, my name, my work, my very dignity against the shallow demands of the elites, and found me wanting. Not because I broke the law, not because I failed some moral test, but because I was inconvenient. Because I stood in the way of someone with more connections, more money, more influence. That's the truth you won't say out loud, isn't it? You didn't make a judgment based on principle. You made a decision based on pressure and whispers behind closed doors. On keeping yourself in good standing with the ones who dine in private rooms and speak in codes the rest of us were never taught. You lent your power, your authority, the robe, the bench, the symbol of balance and fairness, not to the pursuit of justice, but to their whims. You bent not because you were uncertain, but because you were complicit. And in doing so, you made your court into their tool, their weapon. You turned a blind eye to the truth and gave them your silence like it was a gift. You didn't act like a judge. You acted like a broker, trading away my rights, my peace, for their satisfaction. And when it came time to make your ruling, you didn't see me sitting in that courtroom. You didn't see the man I am, the father, the worker, the brother, the neighbor. You didn't see the sweat I poured into building something for myself. You didn't see the struggle behind my eyes, the pride in my voice when I said my own name. No, you didn't see a person. You saw a ledger entry, a file number, a statistic, collateral damage in your system of favors. I wasn't a man to you. I was paperwork. I was someone you could discard without blinking. That's what you made me feel. Disposable. Let's call that what it truly was. Injustice. Plain, sharp, and deliberate. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a moment of confusion. It was a choice. You chose them over me. You chose to believe them before listening to me. You chose to protect their interests while putting mine on trial. That's not error. That's betrayal. And now, after all that, you want me to look at you with pity, to see your apology as some brave act of contrition. You want me to nod and accept it as if the damage done to my name, my record, my very sense of self can be undone with a few gentle words. As if you saying sorry is supposed to make me feel grateful you noticed the wreckage you caused. No, not today. Not ever. I won't pat you on the back for finding a conscience after the fact. I won't let you weep about your regret while I still carry the weight of what you did. This pain, this scar, is not healed by your discomfort, and I am not here to ease your guilt. You expect grace without earning redemption. You expect forgiveness while still holding hands with the very people who pushed me into the fire. That's not how justice works. That's not how healing works. And it damn sure isn't how I work. You can keep your hollow phrase. I am not here to comfort the man who helped strip me of mine. There's no coming back from misjudgment like that. Not the kind that carries the weight of a system behind it. Not the kind that stains a name, a record, a life. This wasn't some minor clerical error. This wasn't a slip of the tongue or a misplaced file in some drawer. No, this was calculated, formal, public. You signed off on it. You looked at me, or didn't, and still gave your approval. You let your authority create a fiction, then wrapped that fiction in official language and called it law. But let me tell you, Judge Thomas, the pain of being wrongly accused doesn't fade because the ink dries on an arrest warrant. Do you even know what that means to someone like me? Do you understand what that does? You gave someone permission to treat me like a fugitive. You handed over my name like a warning. You told the world through that one act that I was a threat, that I deserved to be taken by force if necessary and dragged into a system that's never had room for people like me to begin with. You didn't just authorize a piece of paper. You signed off on fear. You sanctioned humiliation. You greenlit the idea that I could be taken from my family, my work, my community, without just cause. And then, to pile on top of that, a fine. A punishment. Monetary, yes, but symbolic, too. You reached into my life, into my pocket, into my time, and declared that I owed something for. You wrapped it all in legalese, in bureaucratic language meant to smother protest. Words like procedural, standard, non-compliance, as if hiding behind your jargon would make it any less cruel. But I saw the truth beneath it. It wasn't about justice. It was contempt. Quiet, insidious, systemic contempt. Contempt for people without clout. Contempt for those who can't buy their way out. Contempt for those of us whose lives aren't decorated with privilege. You may not have said it outright, but every action spoke louder than your silence. You treated me like a nuisance, not a citizen. Like a case number, not a man. You accused me of wrongdoing I did not commit. Not because you had evidence, not because the facts led you there, but because it was convenient. Because someone said my name in the same breath as disruption, and you decided that was enough. You let that accusation stick. You let it grow roots in official record. You didn't question it. You stamped it, sealed it, signed it. And with that, you branded me. That's the word, isn't it? Branded. Because once your court leaves its mark, it doesn't wash off easy. It clings to everything. Try applying for a loan with that. Try walking into a job interview. Try explaining to your child why daddy's name shows up in databases that speak louder than the truth. That brand doesn't just fade with time. It follows you, echoes around you, poisons the air before you even speak. And worst of all, you did it under the veil of presumed guilt. Guilty until I say you're not. That was the real creed of your courtroom. You didn't wait for facts. You didn't demand truth. You handed down decisions like you were tossing bones.